Hey everybody, tonight we're going to be talking about the 3-level hybrid pivot slider version 2 by TIVIVA EDC. I'm calling it version 2 because about 5 months ago I did a review on something very similar from them, which I would now call the V1. There's a little bit of a story behind that, at least the assumption of what version it is, but we'll be taking a look at this the way we usually do, take it apart, measure it, compare it with a few things, try to have a little fun, and yeah, please stick around. So, the story behind this being V2, at least in my mind. Now, Kyle over on Fidget Focused, he reviewed this about 3 months ago, and, well, yeah, 3 months ago, and I'm going to put a link to that in case you want to compare his review to mine. But when I saw his, I was like, oh, I like that. I like the shape of that. I know it's similar to something I have, but it looks different. At least these parts did. Overall, the shape was a bit more squared off, too. So I was kind of excited about getting one. He got his from a place called playforbeans.com. And he said that in his review, but I neglected to go there in time, and I missed my opportunity to get one. The only place I could find one was Marcia Linda on AliExpress, so I went ahead and took a chance, and I was successful, so I think you're pretty safe, at least with this product. I'll put a link down in the comments for that as well, non-affiliated. But the story again was that the other one came out first, and that's this one. And I believe that the only difference in these are the outer plates. But this one is a bit more rounded. It's prettier, you could say, but it has sort of a more rounded surface to it, whereas this one is more squared off on all sides. And believe it or not, that makes quite a big difference when it comes to how you rotate this as a pivot slider. Everything's just a little bit easier to grip on this one because of its squareness, I think, than it is on this one. This one is a little bit slipperier in your hands, and this motion right here involves a little bit of play in your hand there that this one just seems to grip into your hand better during that. You have more control. So I think that's the improvement. And when I say improvement, that sort of leads to the V1, V2 story. So Kyle bought his from playforbeans.com, which seems like a decent store. Haven't bought from them yet, but I will be. And he said that Mark Chang, who runs that store, he's also a member on the Daily Fidget Facebook, so we all know him. He had mentioned that this one was supposed to be the old version, and this was supposed to be an improved version. That's the idea that I got. So I'm going with V1, V2. Kyle called this the spider slider by TIVIVA, and I didn't want to do that because TIVIVA has another slider with a spider on it, and it's the one. It's one of those tuning fork sliders. Plus, there's another couple versions out there with this spider emblem on it, and I'm not sure how associated they are with TIVIVA or not. But yeah, let's move on from there. Okay, so like I said, I did review this 5 months ago, this one, and they're very, very similar. So if you want a really detailed review where I did comparisons with other things I'm not going to do tonight, like I compared it with the Chenyu Battle Shield, the Top Speed Slider by YEZ EDC, the Pig Nose, and the Guardian by Chenyu. But I have just a few other little ones to compare it with tonight. Again, I'm going to try to narrow this review down, and if you want better comparisons and things, you could look at the previous video on this one. I will link to it in the comments. Let's see. Let's move on to comparisons. I'm only going to do two. The two most popular. Just bring them both out here. The Top B by Metal Toys DZ and the Mackie CP3. Is that right? CP2, yeah, CP3, sorry. Anyhow, let's just compare those right now, size-wise. Almost identical. And the top B. Okay, let's do weights and measurements. There we go. There are no yes, there are magnets in this. Too used to saying there's no magnets in it because everything's I've been collecting is mechanical. Okay, so I'm not going to mess around with things. I'm going to stand it on end to minimize the magnetic impact on the scale. We'll just go with that. About 51 grams. I think this one should be about the same. A little bit less. Maybe a little bit less. I would expect that because I think, like I said, the top plates and the bottom plates are just different. This one has more material machined off of it to achieve this design. This one has the only material taken off of it is etched out in this little spider motif. Okay, just a little bit about how this works. Again, it's the same as the other one. You have a mechanical side, you have a magnetic side, so we call those hybrids. If you want to take off the magnetic side, you can just turn it sideways, lift it directly straight off, and you'll see that there's what I call a key and keyway system. So the screw head drops down into this screw and then travels up and down inside of this machined groove. And that keeps everything lined up and that allows it to rotate. So when you want to put this back on, you have to line that up in the middle to get to go back together again. Now, the mechanical side is 2 springs and 2 balls, and once you remove the screw that I just showed you, this screw travels through the middle piece and becomes your limiting mechanism. The bottom of that screw travels in this middle groove, and it stops when it hits this end or this end. So that's how you take those apart. We're going to skip taking those apart because it's shown in the other video. There are some interesting features here, although I don't think too many people will use them. If you notice, there's a thin groove here, here, and matching grooves here, whoops, here, and here. And what those are for are you put in 4 small balls that comes with it on each side, and put them on this side here. And then when you drop this back on, those become a sort of limiting mechanism. They prevent this from sliding anymore or pivoting anymore. So it now becomes a directly linear back and forth slider. So it won't rotate at all on you if you put those balls in there. But like I said, I don't see too many people doing that. Another odd thing about this that I mentioned in the review of the previous model was how they put the lanyard hole in the middle piece here. And I think the best place for that on this would have been on this magnetic side down here, because this part pivots. And if you had a lanyard on there, it really wouldn't make a lot of sense for it to swing around. In fact, it would be in the way. It might make things impossible. So I don't, and I'm not using this as a one side or the other slider like this. I'm not doing that. I'm never doing that. And I'm not sure who would. I suppose somebody could, but who knows. What I think you'll find yourself doing is like fully extending it and then bringing it back for the most part. And when you do put those balls in, effectively you turn it into a Mackie CP2, because this is a hybrid slider. Magnets on the bottom, detents, mechanical detents on the other side. This one only has 1 spring and a ball, and this is one of the early pieces. But all this does is travel back and forth. If you put those balls in here, That prevents the rotating. All this will do is travel back and forth. Let's compare that in size while I have it out, since I have it out. Alrighty. One of the last things we can do here is just do a quick measurement. I'm getting about 44 millimeters, 23, and 13. 43, about 23, and at its thickest point, 13. So you see these are both 13, and I think those dimensions, the other dimensions were equal. The only real difference between these two, like I said, is that more material has been taken off of this to create this design. And this one has a more squared off edge. Well, I know that was pretty short and sweet. Like I said, again, if you really want to see detailed information about how this operates, how to take it apart, lots more comparisons and stuff, check out the link to the version 1 in the comments, and we'll keep this short and sweet. And I guess the only thing I can say is you can look forward to, now that I've finished this, I have another 5 pieces completed. I believe my next video, which will come out over the weekend, will be general update number 9, and that again will cover the last 5 pieces that I've bought, sort of a recap of what I think of them now. And I can't remember if I showed a picture of it earlier in the video or not. I'm going to pop it up again here, but we did talk about pivot sliders and this week, and I decided to get a picture of all my pivot sliders put together. So that's what that looked like. Can't remember if I showed it earlier or not. And I'm going to be, one of the things coming in the mail, I have 2 things on the way, should be here within the next 2 weeks. And it is going to be, one of them at least is another pivot slider. So I'm going to do a full review of all my pivot sliders at once, because the last time I did it, I only had 3 pivot sliders, and that was quite a while ago. So I think that is everything I have to say. As usual, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. Bye.